Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So if anyone has a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, you can send a message in the chat. We'll have a little time at the end too to take some questions, but we'll, if anyone was on the workshop we had at the beginning of March, it'll be the same outline as that. And then we did have the regional ones as well. So, sorry, just a chat here real quick. Okay, so, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. We are recording, we'll post it to the website. We'll just kind of go through the PowerPoint. We'll jump into Amplifund for a little bit. Like I said, if you guys have questions, just ask them and we'll get anything responded to that we need to. So we are here, Application Guidelines Workshop for 2021 Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Quick agenda, we'll just do an introduction of NAHTF, a little bit on the QAP, pre-application information, we'll go over some application instructions. Majority of the time we'll spend in Amplifund kind of walking through a few items, talk a little bit about the uploads and resources, and again, we'll have questions available at the very end. 2021 NHTF application guidelines. So DED, our role with NHTF is both as an investor and a partner. As an investor, we're always looking for quality applications, really for the best investment of state resources for affordable housing. As a partner, we always want to assist our grantees, our applicants in project design, really working closely with them, address any issues, barriers, obstacles they may encounter or may come across as project is being implemented or they're working and designing their project. So DED, investor and partner with 2021 NHTF. '21 guidelines. It is a new electronic application process, so our guidelines have changed slightly from previous years. We had Amplifund last year. We're using Amplifund again. So if you applied last year, you're somewhat similar or somewhat familiar with the process, but if it's been a while or you're brand new, it is different from previous years. So we really encourage everyone to look through the application guidelines. Most questions you have will probably be addressed in the guidelines. Work with your program staff, so your program representatives, anyone at DED, if you have questions, reach out to us. Really review the qualified allocation plan. It's linked right here. We'll make this PowerPoint available afterward. I'll probably show everybody where a few things are here in a little bit too. So look at the QAP, look at the application guidelines, work with your program reps, program or housing staff as well. And then there are a lot of Amplifund resources. There's the videos, there's how-tos specific to Amplifund. So if you're encountering Amplifund technical issues, go to those resources. They're very helpful. So the guidelines, they are linked right here. I'm just going to jump here real quick so everyone can, let's see. That took me directly to the link. I'm going to show you guys where to go to find them real quick. So if you go to our home page for NHTF, so you can go opportunity.nebraska.gov/NHTF. That'll take you to the home page for Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Scroll down a little ways. Application guidelines are right here. Hopefully you have those open right now as we're going through the PowerPoint. When we get into Amplifund, that'll help out with everything. So just wanted to show everyone where that was. Jump back into the PowerPoint. And then the link to Amplifund is right here. It's also in the application guidelines. So let me go to the guide. Or well, I'll show you guys that here in a minute, but it is linked in there. in the PowerPoint, and we'll make this available afterward. So 2021 NHTF allocation, it is estimated that we'll have $10.3 million of NHTF funding. Of that 10.3, $9,270,000 will be specific for the housing funding cycle, and that is 90% of the allocation, which is subject to the congressional district distribution. Further breaking that down, $9,150,000 is specific for housing projects, and then $120,000 is specific for nonprofit technical assistance. And then the remaining 10%, or $1,030,000, is discretionary. It can be used for any of the above there, or anything else. So $10,300,000 is the projected NHTF allocation for 2021. The 90%, or the 30 for each congressional district, that comes out to $3,090,000 that will go to each congressional district. And then any NHTF funds that may be left over or remaining at the end of the annual cycle, there may be an additional funding cycle, or it may go to additional projects above, or in 2018, we did the demonstration program. So if anything like that happens, we'll send out notification to everyone, and we'll let everyone know the process at that time. Yeah, 1 second here. Someone asked for the links in the chat box. I'm going to send those to you guys here real quick. So this first link is to Amplifund, where to log in for Amplifund. I'll send you this link here to go and find the application guidelines. So there's both of those links that I had on the PowerPoint a second ago. All right, the congressional district distribution. If you're not sure which congressional district you're located in, you can use this census.gov map, or we have this map here in the QAP. I think it's also in the application guidelines. Congressional District 2 is the only one that overlaps. I'm sorry, Sarpy County is the only county that is included in 2. So whatever county you're located in, whatever county the majority of your project's located in, that'll be the congressional district that you want to identify. And you can, sorry, I should mention, you can serve more than one district, so that's not an issue. Just identify the main congressional district you'll serve. Funding cycle timeline. We do have workshops scheduled. We had one at the beginning of March. We're here today, March 23rd. We had our regional workshops. I believe they were all scheduled last week. So this is the last workshop that we'll have. Both of the full workshops, they're available on the webpage. They'll be available on the webpage, the recordings. We did send out to the primary contacts in from the pre-applications, just a recording of all the regional workshops. So if you guys have time, or you want to look at the other regions, you can check out the regional workshops from that link or from that email. Full application deadline. The applications are due April 29th by 6 p.m. Central. The system will be closed at 6:01, so do not wait until 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock to be trying to submit your application. Submit it early in the day before, a couple days before. The system will close at 6:01, so make sure it's in before 6 o'clock. We will not accept any hard copies. You'll have to submit your application in Amplifund. And then awards, they will not be notified or announced until after July 1st of 2021. any questions right now? All right. So eligible applicants, they do include governmental subdivisions, public housing authorities, community action agencies, and then community-based, neighborhood-based, or reservation-based nonprofits. Must be the 501c3 or C4. For-profit entities also are eligible, but the applicant must be one of the above applicant types. So your nonprofits or your public housing authorities, those must be the applicant, but for-profit entities can receive funding from NAHTF. Also, properties that will be financed with LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits, they are not eligible. But if a property was previously financed with LIHTC, home, and or NAHTF, and they've successfully completed their required period of affordability, they are eligible to receive funding. So if you're out of your period of affordability, you've received funding from those before, you can apply for 2021 NAHTF. But if your project will be financed with LIHTC, it's not eligible. Some eligible activities. If you go to page 5 of the application guidelines, it has this section from the Nebraska Affordable Housing Act. It lists everything out. I just copied a few over here. So typical activities we see: new construction, rehabilitation, down payment and closing costs, demolition infrastructure. Those are in conjunction with one of the other activities. So it's only for affordable housing there. Acquisition, mortgage insurance. There's an entire list. If you're not sure, go to page 5 of the application guidelines. And then also DED, when anything determined to be of critical importance to the continued economic development and well-being of the community, as determined by DED, as a shortage of affordable housing exists. So for 2021, DED, we've determined that disaster recovery housing projects and projects resulting in new units, those are determined as critical importance, and they are included in the housing projects funding cycle. The disaster recovery, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but it must be included in the disaster declaration 4420 from 2019. And I'll show a map on that in a little bit. Ineligible activities, those would include any activities that aren't specifically authorized under the eligible activities. So if you don't see something in that list on page 5 of the guidelines, it's not eligible. Specific things listed here: furnishings, personal property, and mobile homes. Again, that's on page 5 of the guidelines. If you're not sure, just reach out to us and we'll work with you on it, help you determine whether or not it's eligible. So specific eligible cost, these are the ones that we typically see. New construction, if your project includes new construction, your plans and specifications, they'll have to be approved by the Department of Environment and Energy. That's if your project is selected for award. So new construction, make sure that you're considering your plans being submitted to NDED. And then site reviews, if your project included a site review, we'll touch on this in a little bit. It should have been submitted last week on March 19th, and that's for projects that already have their site identified. More eligible costs: rehabilitation, reconstruction, site improvements, acquisition of property or vacant land, demo, relocation costs, and then housing management and project soft costs. Those are all eligible costs. Anything that's a cost, it should be reflected in your budget too. So grant amounts and contract periods. For 2021, the suggested housing project maximum amount is $500,000. That is a suggestion. Nonprofit technical assistance, the maximum amount is $40,000. Contract periods for projects that are rental, new construction, home buyer assistance, or purchase, rehab, resale, those will be for 36 months. Owner-occupied rehab, nonprofit technical assistance, and any other projects, those will be recommended for 24 months. Any questions? All right. So the selection criteria and process. So there will be two application pools, the housing projects and nonprofit technical assistance. Any application must meet the minimum threshold requirements and also must be financially viable. NAHTF, there are also 5 program legislative first priorities. So projects serving the lowest income occupants, serving the longest period of time, anything located in an enterprise zone, opportunity zone, or an extremely blighted area, those are legislative priorities, legislative first priorities. All right, the selection criteria for housing projects. So total of 550 points. Project design is worth 100, need an impact 100, project financing 125, capacity and collaboration 75. Disaster recovery can earn up to 50 points there. Affordability period up to 25. Any new units created, you can earn up to 25 points, and then matching funds up to 50 points. And just a quick conversation on matching funds here. This definition, it's found in the QAP and the application guidelines, also in AmpliFund. Match is considered cash available at the time of application. Cash may not be a loan or repaid to another organization. Applicants providing cash match must recognize that only project-related costs incurred by the applicant are eligible. All cash match must be incurred by and expended by the DED recipient during the contract period prior to drawing NAHTF funds. Cash match points will not be awarded for general administration, housing management, and/or project-related soft costs. So if you're not sure if your funds meet the definition of match to be eligible for the points, ask yourself these 3 questions here. Is it unrestricted cash at the time of application? Is it an expense or invoice that will be incurred by the applicant during the contract period? And it must be after release of funds. And then is that expense or invoice going to be expended by the applicant during the contract period? So ask yourself those 3 questions. If it meets those definitions there, it can be eligible for match. And then you must use the required match form that you can find in AmpliFund in this section, or you can download it from that. It's on that same link that I sent to everyone a few minutes ago. So nonprofit technical assistance criteria can earn up to 500 points. The goals and work plans worth 200. Impact on housing production 100, sustainability 100, and then organizational and financial management 100 points. So after applications are submitted, DED will conduct threshold review. They're reviewed to determine the threshold criteria is met, and the application can then be considered for scoring and award. If it does not meet the threshold requirements, the application will not be scored or funded in the 2021 cycle. So the threshold requirements for 2021 was a pre-application submitted by the required date, Is the applicant an eligible applicant? Are the activities eligible? And then did the applicant meet the required milestones that were identified in the QAP on current DED housing awards through NAHTF, CDBG, home and/or HTF programs? We have another slide on that here. 1 second. So the required milestones, when you submitted the pre-application, you should have identified if you had any current NAHTF, home, CDBG, or HTF projects that were open. If they met these milestones, if it didn't meet the milestones, you needed to submit a plan to us. The home and HTF here, so this is just criteria here, kind of outlining information for the projects. You should have, if you had an open one and you submitted a plan, you should have heard from Lynn regarding where your milestones stand. If you still have one that's open and you need to submit funds or you need to submit your final draws, make sure that you get all of that in by April 1st, just to provide an opportunity for us to review and approve and get everything reviewed back to you guys. So you should be hearing from Lynn beginning of April where things stand on that. So if you don't meet those milestones by the time the application is due, you will not be eligible to submit a 2021 application. A few additional requirements and deadlines. So site reviews, if your project includes new construction, acquisition, conversion, rental rehab or conversion, and then infrastructure development, you should have submitted your site review last week if you have the site already identified. If you don't have sites identified, that's not an issue. It'll just need to be approved by DED prior to anything being completed. Rental development proformas. If your project is a rental project, you must use the DED required proforma. You could download it from the pre-application. It is on that same link that I sent a while ago. You can get to it through that link there. It must be submitted to your program representative by March 30th, so next Tuesday. If you have a rental project, you need to submit that pro forma to your rep by next Tuesday. That'll give us an opportunity to review everything, make sure that information is correct. Then we'll get that back to you guys to use for the application. There's information in the pro forma that's that you'll use specifically for the application. So it's new this year. We haven't done this in the past, trying to help ourselves and help everybody else specific to rental projects, just making sure everything's in order. That way there's not more work on the back end for everyone involved. So next Tuesday, if you have a rental project, get your pro forma submitted. Scoring and award. So any of the applications that meet those thresholds, competitive scoring will be conducted. The applications will be scored and ranked statewide. The highest scoring projects will be recommended in the order they're ranked in congressional districts. So we'll allocate not less than 30% to each congressional district. Applicants, they must score a minimum of 250 points on the application to be considered for an award recommendation as well. Again, applications, awards, they won't be made, notice of award won't go out until after July 1st. After July 1st, after awards are made, announced, program reps, they'll schedule contract review with the applicants. So if you receive a notice of award, you'll receive contact from one of the program reps to do contract review. Contract review is just an opportunity to clarify information in the application There may be some items that must be submitted by a specific time during contract review. If it's not submitted by that required date, the applicant may no longer be eligible to receive the award. So information from contract review, it's used to complete the contract. So if you're selected for award, you'll get notified by program rep about contract review. And then applicants requesting 2021 NAHTF funds, they cannot begin project implementation or incur any project costs until after notice of release of funds. So if you're selected for award, can't begin working on your project until after release of funds. Excuse me. Other cycles and funding sources, DED and NIFA. There's the LIHTC credit application cycles. So home and National Housing Trust funds. I believe we just made announcement last week on a few of those. NAHTF, it won't be used for home match for 2021. If you have questions about NIFA's qualified allocation plan, there's a link right here, or you can reach out to Michelle Grimes or Sarah Takota. Again, if there's any NAHTF funds that aren't allocated, and we do another cycle or anything like that, we'll provide notice and we'll get application forms or process provided to everyone. We have a question about what's due on Tuesday. So I'm going to scroll back up here a bit.
Can I clarify my question, Evan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me? I'm working with NeighborWorks, and Tuesday, I know that the pro forma is due for the rentals. Does that apply to every applicant? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
So does the project that you are applying for, is it a rental project?
We're doing a combination. We're going to do some new construction, but we're also doing rentals as well. And so I'm wanting some clarification on if you are doing rentals as part of your project, if that's due for everyone or if there's some stipulations there.
So projects will be broken down basically as one of 4 items. It's either going to be a rental project, a home buyer project, a homeowner project, or a technical assistance application. If your project is a rental project, you need to submit the rental pro forma by Tuesday. So if your project is only a home buyer project, so you're doing a new construction project to sell to a new home buyer, or you're doing purchase, rehab, resale, or you're only doing down payment assistance, this deadline does not apply to you.
Okay, so just rentals.
Yeah. If your project includes rental, you need to submit the rental pro forma to your program rep by Tuesday.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, and I'll show you a little more when we get into Amplifund. It'll kind of help you out with that a little bit too. Excuse me. Some more resources. So the workshops we've had, the regional ones, 2 full workshops. We have the pre-application workshop too. Your program reps, reach out to your program reps early in the process. We're kind of in the middle of the process right now, but everyone should have at least heard from their rep about their projects. So work with them closely. Any questions you have, reach out to them. Amplifund, I'm going to open up this link here in a second. Otherwise, as you're in Amplifund, there's a help button you can click on. And then if you have questions about forms or processes, reach out to Kylie. Just ask Kylie, don't ask me. Kylie will appreciate that. I'm kidding. You can reach out to me too. Any questions you have on the forms or processes, reach out to us. But I'm going to open up this link for Amplifund real quick. Excuse me. So if you're having technical issues or you're not sure how to enter something into Amplifund, you can go to this link. It's on our webpage. There's an Amplifund page. Frequently asked questions about application. There's an FAQ here. There's videos here, getting registered, details, forms, budget. Whitney on our research team did a great job of getting these videos put together. Our research team did a really good job too, just getting information, common questions that we get, just to help everybody out working in Amplifund. So there's troubleshooting, budget issues, and then specific items to NAHTF. There's a full application user guide. There's a lot of good information in these user guides here, specific to the 2021 application. So this is a great resource. Application guidelines, your program representatives, the FAQ. If you aren't familiar with our FAQ, it's right underneath the link to the guidelines. Try to update it as frequently as we can. If you have a question, can't find the answer in the guidelines, the QAP, check out the FAQ because it's probably a question someone else has already asked, and there should be guidance in there for you. Otherwise, just reach out to us too. Let's jump back to PowerPoint. Program reps, out west is Christy. The blue right here is Laura and Central. The pink northeast, Barb. The green is Nick in southeast. Otherwise, you have us listed right here. Lynn's our housing manager. If you have questions, reach out to any of us too. Pre-application, that is one of the threshold requirements. You were required to submit a pre-application to be eligible to submit a full application. So if you did not submit a pre-application and you're planning to submit a full application, you won't be eligible. You had to submit that pre-app to be eligible to submit the application. Should have been submitted by February 23rd. All right, a few instructions on the application. Your narratives, they should be thorough, concise, and within the defined character limits. I'll show you guys the character limit information when we get into the portal here in a minute. DED, we do reserve the right to verify all information provided. And then pre-applications, full applications, they are prepared at the applicant's expense. So the electronic system Amplifund, you'll have to submit your application in Amplifund. Application name, please use this outline for naming your application. Enter the funding year, NAHTF, identify the applicant organization, the type of project, and then the activity. So everyone's application should be 2021 NAHTF, and then your organization, your type of project. So those 4 projects, activity types I was just talking about: rental, home buyer, homeowner, or nonprofit technical assistance, and then the activity. So if you're doing like new construction, purchase, rehab, resale, rehabilitation, you can put that type of activity there. One of the headaches is that you can't name the application the same thing that you named your pre-application. So use some kind of different distinguishing feature from the pre-app to the full app. If you just need to put a underscore or a dash, or you need to abbreviate rehab or spell out rehab or something like that, just make sure that you change the name slightly from the pre-application, but please follow this outline for naming your application. Great question. Would a TA app require activity tag and naming convention? No, you can just put TA. Amplifund, it will require all the required fields and sections. So as you're going through, as you're answering questions, it'll pop up more questions. So if you answer something and it pops something up, that question is required based on your responses. So anything designated with an asterisk, it's required in Amplifund. And then again, your application needs to be submitted by April 29th by 6 p.m. The system won't be open after 6 p.m. Outline of the application in Amplifund. There's your opportunity details page, project information, application forms. So there's 2 forms in there that you'll have to fill out, and then your budget, your performance plan, and then you'll submit it. Any questions before we jump into Amplifund? All right. Close some of these here. So this is the link to the 2021 application. Hopefully everyone's already been in the application. You've started your application, looking through everything. So I'm going to log in here real quick. I already have a few applications started, just test applications here. So I'm not going to go real detailed in Amplifund as I did the first time, but I'm going to scroll through and kind of go through a few sections. And if you have a question, just stop me, or you want to see something, stop me and we'll take a look at it. So I mentioned the outline. In Amplifund, you've got your ribbon up top here. This is the opportunity details page. It's mostly informational, information about NHTF, some contacts, the due date. So yeah, it's mostly informational. Let's save and continue. Go into the project information. This is going to be the same for any of the activities, any of the applications you're applying for. Enter that application name. So 2021 NHTF, my organization is Evan. Rental new construction. I mentioned if you follow this outline from the pre-application, you can just go, you can use like an underscore to distinguish the difference from the pre-app to the full app. Amplifund won't let you use the same name, so just have some type of difference from pre-app to full app name. How much are you requesting? This example, I've got 400,000 in there. I'll just change it to 500 real quick so everyone can see. I have 100,000 of match. I'm going to change that real quick just so you guys can see the total award budget here. It does auto calculate, so I'm just going to change it to 50,000. So it'll auto populate this answer down here. So NHTF, how much NHTF you're requesting, that's your award requested. If you have match entered in there, it'll have that total budget award there. Primary contact, this will be auto-populated from the email address that you use when you log in. So if the primary contact is someone different than who logged in from or who created the account, please update that. Primary contact should be the person that DED we would reach out to if we have a question specific to the project. So whoever is the main point of contact for the application or the project, enter that information in as the primary contact. Make sure you mark it as complete. And then you can save and continue. So anything that you've done and marked as complete will have a check mark at the top of your ribbon here. Anything that's just blank like this is started on or hasn't been done. Excuse me. I'm going to jump into the project details real quick. Again, enter the primary contact organization and the phone number. Applicant information. We ask a lot of information about contacts. I apologize for that. It's just helpful on our end if your project is selected for award. It makes the transition to the award side much simpler for you and for us. So there's a lot of contact information requested in here. If it's the same person for all of the contacts, just enter that same person and that same contact information in there. So go through it, just answer the questions, enter the information. If you're not sure on one of them, reach out to us and we'll let you know who to add in there. So applicant, and make sure you enter the applicant organization, their information, contact info, state, postal code, and then the authorizing individual, whoever's authorized to sign off on your funding information or sign off on the application, enter them in there as the authorizer for this. Again, the preparer might be the same person, just enter the information. If it's different, identify that, enter in their information. If your project's selected for award, identify who the grant manager would be for the award. Again, it might be the same primary contact, or it might be somebody different that you'll have doing the award information or working on the actual project once it goes to award. Again, it's easier for transition if your project's selected for award. So just, like I said, it might be the same person or it might be someone different. Just enter in the info for the contacts there. And then the local contact, again, might be the same person. Please just enter the information. It just makes for ease on the back end. Identify if you're applying for more than one project. This is more so just informational. If you are, you need to submit multiple applications. So one application for each project or each application you're submitting. And make sure you identify the date that your pre-application was submitted. Your milestones, identify if your project didn't meet these milestones during the pre-application. Identify if your award or your open contract will be compliant by April 29th. If it's not compliant with these milestones or doesn't meet these milestones, you're not eligible to submit the 2021 application. Lynn will be reaching out to everyone on these milestones in the beginning of April. So if you're not compliant or you're not meeting those milestones right now, you'll be getting more information in the next week or so. Identify where the majority of your project is located. So if majority of your projects in Congressional District 3, mark 3. If it's mostly in 1, mark 1. It can be in more than one congressional district, but identify the main congressional district. If it's in more than 1, you can select all the congressional districts right here, or if it's just 1, just select the one. Service area, identify all the legislative districts that your project will be serving. City and county, identify if you're doing a county-wide project or multiple counties, select all the counties. If it's just one city or two cities or a couple cities in a county, find the city. Oops. Find the city, Cedar Bluffs. Sorry, I don't know what county Cedar Bluffs is. And then just select the county that it applies to. So you have multiple cities, got Bartlett, Burwell, Cedar Bluffs. I know those aren't anywhere close to each other, but select the cities and then put the county that they're in. So that's just where your project will be occurring. And then identify your program rep. So you can go to that map. I'll show you where it is real quick. If you don't know how to get to our program rep map, it's in, select this link right here, and then contact DED regional housing staff. Here's our housing map right here. So if you're in Lincoln County, orange, orange, that's Christie. If you're in Holt County, blue, blue, that's Laura. Gage, green, green, Nick, Southeast. Just identify the region that your program rep's from. Once you have all that done, mark it as complete. Oops. Can't mark as complete because I didn't enter all the information. So it'll tell you if you don't have something done. I'm just going to save and move on for sake of time. So now we're in the application questions. Sorry, does anyone have a question or want to see something back on that previous page? All right. So now we're in the questions. The example we're working on right now is it's a rental project. So it's a housing activity. So just identify the activity. The last workshop, I kind of jumped back and forth between the 4 activities. I'm going to try to just simplify it a little bit this time. So if you're not sure, just stop me and I'll clarify on things. But I also mentioned, depending on what you click, will pop up specific questions. So this example we're going through right now is a rental project. So it's a housing type. Identify the affordability period of your project. 10, is it located in an enterprise zone? Yes or no. Is it an opportunity zone? Yes or no. Extremely blighted? Yes or no. So just answer and identify the questions. So here are the project types for housing. Your rental, homeowner, home buyer. We're going through a rental example right now. I'm just going to click rental. So I clicked on rental. That changed a bunch of questions below. You can't see it right here. But if I had clicked on home buyer, it would have popped up other questions down below. Just again, answer the questions as you go through. It'll pop up the questions specific to your project. Disaster recovery. Is your project, the proposed project you're applying for specific for disaster recovery? It must be in one of the designated counties, one of the declared counties to qualify for the points. And I'll show you exactly which counties it has to fall under. So you can click on the link directly to the disaster declaration. It must be one of the individual assistance and public assistance counties. So these red checkered counties if your project is located in one of these counties and you're proposing for assisting with disaster recovery, you can mark that as yes to receive the 50 points. And then you make sure that your narratives are clarifying how your project is going to serve the long-term recovery efforts of the disaster, the impact of the disaster. So you can't just click yes and get the points. You need to make sure that you are identifying in your narratives and your project how it's designed to assist as a long-term recovery effort from that natural disaster. If you're not serving DR, just click no. It changed the questions there. Excuse me. The housing program activities. So specifically, what type of activity is your project going to be? Are you doing new construction, rehab, demo? Do you have rent-up reserves and operating reserves in the project? Is there a developer fee? Identify all the activities that your project will serve. And then remember, anything you have here should be entered into the budget. And we'll look at the budget here in a bit. But this specific example I'm going through right now, I'm just going to say we're doing rental duplex. So new construction, we'll just say that we're doing operating reserves, housing admin, housing management, and general admin. So I identified the activities specific for the project. If there's an additional eligible activity your project's going to serve, specific from Section 58706 of the Nebraska Affordable Housing Act, you can mark yes and then just list what it is. So go to your guidelines. I think it was page 6. If the activity isn't one of these specific items and it's something listed in the eligible activities, you can just mark yes and list it out right here. If your project's going to create new units during the contract period, identify yes or no, and then how many new NHTF units will be created. So this is why it's important to, or this is one of the reasons we ask for that pro forma for rental projects, so we can get this information to you. So enter in the specific NHTF units for rental project. If you have market rate ones for your rental project, enter those in there, have the total. I'm going to jump to a home buyer example here real quick. So you're just doing a plain, sorry, not a plain. You're doing a new construction project, building a duplex for sale. That's going to be a different question right there. So it'll just be how many new NHTF units. So like I mentioned, the questions you answer will pop up different questions. Identify the total NHTF beneficiaries. And then for rental projects, this won't apply to your other projects. This will just be rental, the estimated rent for all units. So again, this one, I'm just showing the most detailed information right now. So these might not apply to your project, but this example does. If it's not there, don't answer it. Your uploads, you can have 4 uploads for each section. Make sure that you name the upload and that it's not just letters or numbers. Make sure it has a specific name to it. And you can, if you're using the same upload for more than one section, so in the capacity and collaboration, but you uploaded it in project design, just make sure you reference where it's uploaded. So project design, you'll have your questions. Just respond to your questions. character limit right here. It's going to show you how many characters you have available. So as you're typing out your question answers, it will show you how many characters you have left. You can't copy and paste from like a Word document. If you do copy and paste and put it in here, make sure that the formatting is correct. Sometimes when you copy and paste into here, the formatting gets jumbled a bit. So if you copy and paste, go back through, make sure it's clear. There's spaces. You hit enter between certain spots, so it's not all jumbled up in there. Just respond to the questions, enter the questions, your answers to the questions in here. Again, go through, answer your yes, no questions. It'll pop up more items. So I answered yes, the transition plan opened. I answered no, it's not there anymore. If it has a lease agreement, or upload your lease agreement, your tenant selection policy, rules and regulations. This is just specific to a rental project. So upload those. Your program guidelines, you'll want to download your checklist. So I'll go ahead and download it quick. So here's your checklist for your program guidelines. Go through and fill out the section and page that you have this specific item in your guidelines. Once you have it filled out, upload it right here, and then upload your program guidelines. Question here real quick. So for rental rehab projects, the program guidelines will identify everything that you need to fill out. So let's see here. Rental rehab provide tenant education to current tenants. So it is required for all tenants. So go ahead and enter that in there. And then the other question, so is radon required? So you need to, so rental rehab, need to be letting your tenants know information on the risks of radon. If it's a new one, it has to have the passive radon mitigation information entered in there. So go through your checklist, make sure that everything in the checklist is being included in your program guidelines. So if you have other questions specific on those, I'd work with your program rep trying to make sure that it meets compliance, or sorry, not compliance, but just meets the definitions and the requirements. Your program guidelines, they don't have to be finalized at the time of application. Everything that you have in your program guidelines, it will be a requirement for release of funds. So everything in there will have to be approved and signed off by your program representative prior to receiving release of funds. So that's information that can be completed on the back end if your project's selected for award too. Another question. So program guidelines, the checklist. I'm going to open up another tab here real quick. So I have the one we're going through right now is a rental project. I'm going to open up a home buyer project real quick just so you can see where that information is, and a homeowner application. So your program guidelines and the checklist. will be under your application forms and then your application questions. And then when you get down in, sorry, let me make sure I have this right. So it's a home buyer. Your checklist, you can find your checklist under project design. When you get down to the program checklist section, there's going to be instructions that tell you to download the checklist, fill out the checklist, and upload your checklist and your program guidelines. So if your project's a home buyer project, here's your home buyer program guideline checklist. This is a rental one. There's your rental program guideline checklist. Let me get into a homeowner one here real quick. So down to project design, program guideline checklist, your homeowner program guideline checklist right here. Just click on this. It's going to download your checklist that you need to fill out. So your program guidelines should meet all of these items, these requirements in your checklist. So owner-occupied rehab program guideline checklist. Make sure your guidelines meet item A, item F. Everything in here, identify the section and page number that's spelled out in your program guidelines. Once you have that filled out, upload the checklist right here, and then upload your program guidelines right here. You can also get these checklists on our webpage. It's that same link that I sent previously under your application guidelines. You can go and find the specific checklist for your program guidelines. So home buyer, rental, homeowner right here. Make sure you fill them out and then upload it with your program guidelines. Okay, so I'm back in the rental one. This is going to be the same question for each section. If your project includes new construction, acquisition, conversion, rental, rehab, or infrastructure development, just answer yes or no. If they've already been identified prior, or the specific site has already been identified prior to application, identify yes or no. If yes, you'll want to upload the approved form right here. So you should have submitted your site review to your program rep last week. Once it's approved and sent back to you, just make sure you upload it right here. If you had more than one site, upload it as one form, please. It's not an issue if you don't have the site already identified. It'll just need to be approved and reviewed by DED prior to anything being completed on it. Here's where you upload your uploads. So if you have supporting documentation specific to your project design, you can upload those items right here. Your need and impact section, just respond to your questions right here. Stay within your character limit. Housing study, so answer your questions. It's a regional or county-wide project, and then you have communities in the county that have housing studies online. This right here, it's optional. You don't have to upload this if your county or your communities and your counties don't have links to the housing study. It's just something for you to upload if you have it, if it's available specific to a regional county-wide project. The housing study is really one you just go through and answer the questions, upload the information based on the responses. So if your housing study sorry, let me back up just a little bit. If your project is not countywide or region-wide, and it's specific to one city, you'd answer no here. Is the study available online? Yes or no. If it is available online, provide a link to it. If it's not, upload a copy of the housing study. Does the housing study include an executive summary? Yes or no. If it does, upload the executive summary. If not, just put together a brief summary of the main items from the housing study, and you can just enter it in right here. Your applicant specific uploads again. Okay. Any questions? All right. So project financing. So this section, again, remember up at the top, I selected rental. It popped up specific questions for rental here. If I go into I think this is the home buyer one, there's going to be different questions for home buyer. So again, depending on what questions or how you respond to questions, we'll have other questions in there. Rental, make sure you identify this specific question. Home buyer, make sure you address these specific questions in your narrative. If the project includes leverage, enter your leverage documentation. Again, this is the rental one, so the pro forma that you submitted to us, the DED would have approved. Make sure you upload this, the approved pro forma right here, and then identify this information here as well. I'm going to jump into the home buyer one real quick because this is somewhat similar. Home buyer project, if it has new construction, PRR, or infrastructure development, you're going to be required to also submit a pro forma. You do not have to use the DED rental pro forma. Use your own pro forma. So home buyer, new construction, PRR, or infrastructure development, you need to submit a pro forma with your application. It's your own pro forma to use. So upload it as an Excel document, not a PDF. Upload it as an Excel document. And then respond to the following questions here. These questions are going to be in the rental one too, because your rental has a pro forma. Homeowner, you're doing owner-occupied rehab. It's not going to have these questions. It's not going to have a pro forma. So if you're doing owner-occupied rehab, ignore me for a minute. But if you're doing a home buyer project and you have new construction, PRR, or infrastructure development, or your project is a rental project, you'll identify these responses right here. Answer these questions here. Same thing for rental. So if your project has a pro forma required, there's a few other questions. It's just the conditional formatting. So what questions you answer and respond to will provide the information you need to respond to. And then your uploads specific to your project financing section right here. Question on the housing study. Let me look here real quick. So the executive summary. So if your executive summary is part of the large report, so the whole study, you'll still put the link to the housing study here, but please pull the executive summary and upload just the executive summary right here. So if you need to copy and paste that into like a Word document or just save it as a PDF for that. Just enter that, only the executive summary right here. But then, yeah, use the link right there. The rental pro forma, the housing management general admin is an eligible cost. Enter it in there still as a cost, but it won't be used for the allocation information. So put it in the, I think it's the total development section. Let me look here real quick. Page. So I'm pulling up the rental pro forma real quick. So housing management and general admin, entered in here. It's just not included in this section for the allocation purposes. So you'll still enter it, or I'm sorry, you'll enter it here, and you'll also enter it over here. So if you have housing management that you're requesting, enter it there, oops, and also right there. Make sure I didn't miss any questions here real quick. So this, question here for subsidy. Where do you find the subsidy information? So go back to our NAHTF page and then your data for applicants and grantees. I'm going to open in another tab here. Subsidy limits can be found on this page here. I'll send this link. I'll just send this link real quick. All right. Back to Amplifund. Match, again, if your project includes match, enter the amount of cash match, provide a brief narrative on it, and then use the DED matching documentation template and upload it right here. Capacity and collaboration, enter your narrative responding to the questions right here. And then rental, you'll address these here. So identify who will own the project. If it's an owner, landlord, nonprofit, who will manage it. So answer the questions as you're going through. Public hearing, we are not requiring a public hearing from our applicants this year. If you still want to do a public hearing, you are more than welcome to. With COVID, the pandemic, we're not going to require it. So if you choose not to do a public hearing, you can, what we're looking for is you need to make the information available to the public, get any input that you can, and then any input that you get, make sure that you take it into consideration as you would with a public hearing. Save all that information as one document and upload it to these 3 sections right here. I'll talk on that again here in a minute. There's a slide in the PowerPoint that we'll talk about. And then leverage, your project includes leverage, enter the total leverage amount, add up the award, match, and leverage for right here. Identify the source of the leverage, the amount of leverage, and the specific activity that the leverage is going toward. and then your electronic signature. So if you, the preparer, the same, if you, the preparer, are the authorizing individual, just select yes, enter your information here. If you are not the authorized individual, you're filling out the application for your organization, or you're applying or you're entering for someone else, like you're the development district applying for a city, download this form. Enter who the authorized individual is, the organization, the type, the amount, application name, and the preparer's name. Sign off. This form is authorizing the individual that's preparing the application. Sorry, go back to the right page. So once you fill that form out, that's authorizing whoever is preparing it to enter it here. So in the example here, the preparer is not the authorized individual. You filled out the form and uploaded it. Preparer name. And then it's just authorizing them to sign off. If the authorizing individual has access to the application and they want to put their name in there, they want to physically put their name in there, that's fine too. Please still just fill out this form so we know that it's been authorized. So if the authorizing individual is not the preparer, make sure you fill out this form still. And then you just date it, mark it as complete, move on to the budget. Which link were you looking for? I'm sorry. The form is in the system there, if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, so the form is right here in Amplifund. Otherwise, the form is also under the application guidelines section here. Just make sure you use the, I'll set it here real quick. Sorry, that's not right. You can download it from there too. All right. So once you get done with all your application narratives, you'll fill out your budget. So category, new construction, just add the name of the activity, or if you have a site identified, or the more detail that you put into the budget, the more beneficial it will be for us to review. So if you have new construction and you know how much materials are going to cost, you can enter that direct cost in there. I'm just going to throw a number out here. So you're requesting specifically 100,000 for materials for the new construction. You can provide a narrative specific to that. So it's got it listed as grant funded right here. I'm going to go in and say your project includes match. I'm going to add a line for match. Say 50,000 specific for match for materials. Right now it's listed as non-grant funded, it'll ask if it's non-grant funded. If you have it as no, that means it is grant funded, so it's NAHTF funds. Change it to yes, then you'll be able to enter it as match. Right now it's still listed as grant funded. Your total budgeted is 50,000. Say you're just going to do 25,000 right here. It'll change the grant funded up here, the cash match, but your total budget's still right there. Or you can go all 50,000. You can also use the percentage section right here. So right now it's 100% match. I'm going to go back and do this 50%. So change it to 25. So now I've got one line. I'm going to edit this just so we can distinguish the difference a little bit. Materials, all grant funded, materials with match. So there's, 25,000 of grant funded, 25 of non-grant funded. So your match right there, it's got your 50,000. I would really recommend watching the video. Okay. I'd really recommend watching this video. Right here. This is going to give you a lot of information on filling out your budget, specific items. It's going to help you understand whether or not your budget is balanced. Right now, it is not balanced because we've got 150,000 listed up here. But back on that front page, you remember I put 500,000 and I said 50,000 for match. So my total revenue is 550, but I've only got 400 in my budget. I'm going to balance this out real quick. And then I still need I know this is a ridiculous number for labor, but I'm just trying to show budget being balanced. So right now it shows a balanced budget. This 0 right here shows my revenue is the same as my expense up here. So make sure your budget says 0, and then you can mark it as complete. But if you have other questions on the budget, you're not sure if it's working correctly or if it's right, this video right here is really helpful. And then the user forms too, check those out. Really good information on that, entering that info. But just make sure that your budget is consistent with your narratives, everything else that you're saying in your application, everything's lining up. And like I had mentioned also, the more detail that you have in your budget, it's going to benefit us to be able to understand exactly how the project's working, how it's being completed. So more detail in the budget, it's very helpful. Performance plan. Let's see here. So anything that says housing project will be specific to a housing project application. It says housing project or technical assistance. And it has this asterisk right here. It's going to be required. If it doesn't have the asterisk, like this one down here, these are just optional ones for you. But look for items that say if you're applying for TA, and it says technical assistance, that's where you enter your information. If it says housing project, enter in the information. And I would recommend to copy this right here, go in, add your goal, and paste it right there as the name. So if your project is serving 4 beneficiaries at or below 80% AMI, enter it there. You can put a description right here. Rental to serve for NAHTF. I'm going to call them Ben's. You can enter it like that, or you can put a little narrative in there too. So it'll pop up that name. So we can see right here. Don't worry that it doesn't show the number right here. It shows on our end. Just make sure that you enter in the number right there. So if you're adding in something here, it's helpful to copy and paste it as the name. Enter in any claimed units. Your project description, make sure that you are, I didn't copy and paste, but I'm just going to. Your project description, really make sure you get the who, what, where, when, why information specific to your project. It doesn't need to be 3 pages in length. Just really get the nuts and bolts of the project and what you're going to do and serve and how you're, just a little information about how you'll do it. So project description, make sure you get that in there. Completion date, when you intend to complete your project. And then if you have applicant specific goals, so if you have a goal or something that doesn't really fall under one of these items, it's optional for you to enter in here. So if you have something specific that doesn't meet those, go ahead and add it as a goal. Again, it's optional. I'm going to open up a technical assistance application real quick. The TAs are a little more straightforward. There's not as much information that you have to, all those uploads, the other items that I showed there. The project details will still be the same, but when you're in the application question section, it's a little different, not quite as much information. We're still going to address these questions up here. Identify what exactly you're doing with the TA. If there's an additional activity, you can identify that too. But I want to highlight this real quick since we're talking about the performance plan. In your goal and work plan for your technical assistance application, one of the questions is about the measurable goals that you intend to achieve through the TA funds. It says these goals must be entered and detailed within the performance plan. So this right here is your measurable goals for your TA project. In the narrative section, again, I'm talking about technical assistance applications, just list those 5 to 7 measurable goals in the narrative section. So this spot right here, just list them out and then detail them in the performance plan. So when you get to the performance plan for your technical assistance application, we're working on your measurable goals. Your measurable goals, they can be a milestone, a numeric item that you're going to achieve, or maybe a percentage change or a percentage that you intend to serve in the community. So I'm just going to throw one example out here. You are, through your technical assistance application, you're going to attend 2 measurable goal number 1, trainings. So one of the goals for your technical assistants is you're going to attend a number of trainings specific for development, or I'm just going to say development. So you're going to attend 2 trainings, and you already have them identified, which ones you plan to attend, so you can enter their name. Will attend 2 trainings specific on development financing, or maybe it's another training. Just identify the goal, the trainings, the number, and then save it in here. And actually, I'm sorry, this is where you really detail it. So if you know the dates already, what it is, how it's going to assist the organization, really put your detailed information on your measurable goals in this description in the performance plan. So detail, detail, detail in your performance plan. Measurable goal number 2. This is a milestone, so you're going to hire a staff member or something, just a general example. Hire staff to complete detail, detail, detail. Really detail exactly what they're going to do here, what their work will include, and then identify the date that it will be done by. So February 10th of 2022. So have your detail here, identify the goal, add it in there. Again, this is specific to technical assistance applications. I'm going to jump back into the application questions for technical assistance projects. Just go through a couple more items on there. Your goal and work plan, same as I discussed earlier. Your character limits, enter your narrative in here in response to the questions. Any uploads that you have, supporting documentation, just upload them there. Your impact on housing production, again, just respond to the questions, enter the information in there. Your uploads, sustainability section, same as above. Public hearing, I've got a slide I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but same as housing project. Don't have to do a public hearing. You guys still can if you want to, but you need to make the application, the information available to the public. Upload the information here. Any supporting documentation. And then your organization and financial management, your character limits, information. If it has match, enter in the match. Use the match documentation. It has a leverage, upload your leverage documentation, and then the required uploads for the technical assistance, your balance sheet, and income and expense statements. Same leverage form, same as I discussed earlier. Source, amount, the activity, and then same electronic signature. Upload the form if it's not the same person. So same information, it's a little less and less information you have to upload, but technical assistants still go through and answer the questions that it asks. Once you're done with your performance plan, make sure you mark it as complete. Oh, I don't have the completion dates. Make sure you put your details and then date. Mark it as complete. So I've got the check marks right here for these 4 sections. I didn't fill out all the information in the application forms. It shows that I'm working on it. Once it had a check mark here, I would then be able, it's telling me I have stuff that I'm not done with. Once I updated that, this would be green and then I could submit it. So use those Amplifund resources, those videos, the user guides, ask your program reps if you have questions, watch the workshop. If you have questions in Amplifund or the application, just let us know. Any questions in Amplifund quick before I jump back to the PowerPoint? All right. Any questions specific on the questions? I don't intend to read all the questions to you guys, but if there's a specific question under a certain section that you're unsure of or you want a little further clarification, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to scroll through these here. I have them all here just in case there's one someone wants to talk through. Not seeing any questions on them. No questions on the questions. All right. Just a couple more slides here quick, and then we'll kind of wrap everything up. Uploads and resources. I talked in when we were going through Amplifund, the uploads, or I'm sorry, the public hearing. It's not required. You still need to make it available to the public to receive input from the public. So the documentation, you need a summary of how it was made available. You guys are, if you have a listserv that you send information out to your community or your counties or your region, if you use social media, however you're making it available to the public, have a summary of how it was made available, and then any feedback that you got back from the public. If you don't get any feedback, make sure that you note that so you can save that as one document. And this is only if you're not doing the public hearing. Save it as one document. I'm going to jump back to one of the public hearing sections. So if you're not doing a public hearing, summary of how you made it available and the feedback that you got from the public. If you didn't get feedback, make sure you note that, and then upload that one document into each of these 3 sections. If you do a public hearing, upload your public notice here, sign-in sheet, and any comments you received during the public hearing. If you did not receive comments during the public hearing, note that and upload that information here too. Amplifund, as you go through and you answer the questions, it's going to prompt all the required uploads, all the required sections that you need to fill out. So if something's there, it's there because you responded to a question and the response to that question requires it. So the system, if it has it there, put information in there. And if you're still unsure, reach out to us for clarification because you may have clicked a wrong button somewhere. Each section provides you 4 uploads, so use those uploads as supporting documentation. The guidelines, forms, there's a couple calculators. The FAQ, it's at this link. I sent that link at the beginning of the meeting. Amplifund resources, The videos and user guides, they are there as well. Question on the public hearing specific to technical assistance applications. Yes, it does apply to technical assistance applications as well. And any other questions or anything anyone wants to go back and look at? Hey, I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap things up. We will make this workshop available. We are recording. We'll post it to the same location as the other workshop, which is, you can find it. You'll be able to find it on the Amplifund page, and then you'll also be able to find it on that application guideline link that I sent at the beginning. The pre-application workshop, it's right here. The one we had on March 4th, it's right here. Once we finish up today and get the recording, we'll get it posted right here too. So if there's something we talked about today you want to go back and listen on or look through again, it'll be on here. So we'll have those available. If you guys have questions, reach out to your reps, reach out to anybody on the housing team. Otherwise, if we don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and stop recording and we will finish up the meeting. I appreciate everyone joining us today. Hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.